Thank you. Maybe I could say a few preliminary words. I've known Dr. Angela Gordon for quite a long time, about a quarter of a century, and like many of the young people here at Ridge South or any of the other high schools in the district, she was a hard-working student when I first met her. She was in the band, she played golf, she did well in school, and then later went to the University of Illinois down in Champaign-Urbana, did well there, and then went to dental school, medical school at Meharry in Nashville, Tennessee, and now she's a dentist. And I've known her daughters since they were born. Lauren is an 8th grader, and Tiffany, who's a 2nd grader, and she has a son as well, and her husband Ronnie I know. And I just think that the whole Jack and Jill movement is really what Angie is all about, and I think everybody here. I really commend the moms and dads who are committed to their kids' future. The great thing about America is that parents and teachers and those who work in the school system sacrifice some of their present in order to help their children and their students' future. And that's really, I think, what our discussion today will be all about. I saw a few friends in the lobby there. I do want to salute Representative Al Riley, who I work with every day in Springfield. He's a representative from this area. Al's a good man. There he is. And I also saw with his whole family a person who was a representative for some years, about a decade, who's been my friend for that period of time. He ran for state comptroller and ran a wonderful race, and that's Representative David Miller, who I think very highly of. And as you may know, Dave is a dentist as well, and I think we miss you every day, Dave, because we no longer have in the General Assembly someone who's a dentist, and Representative Miller led the way for decent health care, particularly oral health care, dental health care for our state. We passed a law that requires every kindergartner, 2nd grader, and I think 6th grader to have a dental exam to make sure that they, when they come to school, are in good health condition. So that's what it's all about. I know there are many mayors who have joined us today, and school board members, and those who are on the staff, superintendents, and so on. We really commend all of you for your commitment to public service. I was just with President Obama on Thursday night in Chicago when he visited, and I had a chance to visit with the president. And I want to thank the president for all he's done for Illinois since I've been governor. He's helped our state a whole lot. I know we have an agenda here, but I just want to recite, I think every student here and all of us who are adults should read and reread his speech in Boston in 2004. He was at that time the nominee to be U.S. Senator from Illinois. It was in July or August of that year. And President Obama said how important it is to really focus on your studies in school. Whether you're in grammar school or high school, we want readers to be leaders. We want everybody reading. We want to really emphasize learning. This is for everybody. This is not something that you make fun of. It's indispensable to being a good, strong human being that can help your community and help your world. So that's what President Obama has done. If you looked at his life, or for that matter, Dr. King's life, they were always focused on education. So education, jobs follow brain power, and the strongest force on earth for equal opportunity is education, and I know that's what our gathering is, and I'll stop talking and hopefully start answering questions, okay?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for agreeing to have a one-on-one. The purpose of this is to actually give us an opportunity to know you behind the or the open doors, and not behind the scenes, but we get a chance to understand government and its functions and what you are doing for us that we don't have any idea. And so with that, every time I read a newspaper or I'm listening on television, there is some new bill you're passing or some new legislation that's in the making. You must relax at some point. What do you do for relaxation?
this job, 24 hours, 7 days a week, you do different things. Change labor is as good as the rest. I really don't like to take too much time off. I think I'm on a mission. I got sworn in a little more than 2 years ago. As everyone knows, our state had a big integrity crisis with my predecessor, and we had to restore integrity to Illinois government. So that's a mission you have to work on all the time. I try to get exercise. I think that's part of...
Are you a runner?
I was in cross country in high school. I was a pretty good runner. My sons were outstanding runners, so once in a while I run. Can't keep up with them. But my brother John is a high school teacher at Fenwick High School, which is located in Oak Park, and he's been teaching for 31 years, and he's also the basketball coach there. And so I have a pass to the gym. They said, anybody who gets, I went to Fenwick High School, if you get elected to statewide office, then you get a free pass to the gym, and I can go there at night.
Can you play basketball?
Oh yeah, well I was hoping to do that this afternoon or definitely this weekend. I think sports are very important.
Yes.
I went to Georgetown University some years ago, quite a few years ago, and it's a great school. I would commend that to any of the students here thinking about going to college. Look at Georgetown. It's in Washington, D.C. You can learn many things there. But I remember John Thompson, who was the basketball coach, had a deflated basketball on his desk. And he told all these high school hotshots who may have been pretty good in sports, when you come to school here, it's not only about the sports and basketball, it's also about getting a degree and learning. And so he used that deflated basketball to say, someday your career will be like this basketball. And so you gotta be ready for the future. And I think that's a lesson that all of us can take to heart.
Well, let's stop right there, because you grew up in Illinois. You obviously, as a youngster, didn't think one day you'd be the governor, but obviously you had aspirations. What were they?
Well, I went to a high school that believed in service. The teachers did, and the students did. And a number of the folks on my staff are folks I've hired from the high school where I went. My brother knew these students as they were coming up through high school. They went to college later. I just bumped into one of them on Thursday night. He worked as my scheduler when I was lieutenant governor for 4 years. He worked in my schedule, and he did a lot of things in our office. And then in 2007, 4 years ago, President Obama, at that time Senator Obama, on February 10th of 2007 in Springfield at the old state capitol, which I would urge everyone to visit. It's where Abraham Lincoln once served. It's a beautiful building. So at that building, around that building, the president announced his candidacy for president. This young fellow on my staff, his name was Pete Newell, he said, well, I'd like to work on the campaign, even though he'd be leaving my staff. And I knew the president and a number of the people running his campaign, so I got him a position, a rather entry-level spot. He traveled all over the country, ultimately was with the president quite a bit, advancing his schedule, and now he's working in the White House. Actually took a leave from the White House. He's working in the re-election campaign of President Obama. And so I think my view of the whole situation is that I try to find people, of men and women, who have talent, who have idealism. I think it's important to have energy and enthusiasm, but definitely have ideals, high ethics, and definitely the view that service to others is the rent we pay for our place on God's earth. I like people who are into that, and when you find them, you keep them, and you grow with them, and hopefully make a big difference.
So you graduated from Georgetown. What was the first job that you accepted?
Yeah. Well, I went to Georgetown in the late 60s and early 70s. I was in the School of Foreign Service. So anybody here, if you're interested in learning a lot, you can apply to that school in economics, and government, and history, and languages, philosophy. It was great education. I'm very grateful to my parents for helping me get to college, and my teachers as well. And when I was a freshman, there was a senior at Georgetown in the same school, Foreign Service. And his name was William Jefferson Clinton. You ever hear of him? Yeah, he was later president. I didn't really know him very well. I knew of him. He won the Rhodes Scholarship when I was in college there, and he was a senior. And later on, I was state treasurer of Illinois. I was in Southern Illinois and Carbondale University there, and I had to introduce him. He was still the governor of Arkansas, but he was running for president. So I told him, you know, when I was going to college, I was at Georgetown, and you were a senior, and I was a freshman, and I knew a little bit about him, and he was pretty impressed with that. And I only talked to him about 2 or 3 minutes before we went on. And so when he had a chance to speak, he said, when I was going to school with your treasurer, he made it sound like I did his homework for him. He had that way of connecting to people. I was a co-chairman of his campaign, by the way, in Illinois in 1992. And I think that's part of what education is about. You want to learn a lot, have a zeal and a zest for learning, but you also want to be a people person. I try to hire folks for the government that really understand that it's about public service to the public. And I heard a person speak not too long ago, and they were asked to give in one sentence or phrase, what's the best way to really do well in business or public life, government? And the answer was smile a lot. So I believe in smiling too, okay?
Good. Well, I want to know, and I guess everyone here, when did you become interested in politics?
Well, I was, in my high school, the view was that character was service to others, to find ways to help your community. And I would commend that to boys and girls and young people here. Get involved in some kind of service activity. I mentioned Dr. Gordon and her children and her mom, I know, for some time. They're involved in things like helping the homeless, helping service members and veterans. Very, very important. You know, our country has been in 2 wars, maybe now 3 wars, and our men and women in uniform and their families, can't forget them. We have a website called OperationHomefront.org, OperationHomefront.org. And it gives a lot of volunteer ideas that we, the people on the home front, can do to help men and women in uniform who are deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else. I'm the Commander-in-Chief of the Illinois National Guard right now. We have 440 of our Guard men and women in Egypt. You know, who would have thought that that would be such a perilous assignment, but it is. So it's important to find ways to volunteer, and I found in my volunteer activities in high school and in college that you learn from others and you get involved in big causes. And when I graduated from college, my first job was in East St. Louis, Illinois. I was involved in a political campaign there and in southwestern Illinois. And it was a very educational experience and learned a lot.
I'd like to go back to when you were Lieutenant Governor. You initiated a program called Let Them Rest in Peace Act. And that is one of the most incredible things that you could have done. Can you tell us more about that and what actually ignited that?
Well, since 9/11, September 11th of 2001, it'll be the 10-year anniversary this year, we have lost in our state about 300 service members who were alive on that day and gave their lives for our democracy. In Iraq and Afghanistan. Right now, Afghanistan is a very dangerous, foreboding place. I've been to both Iraq and Afghanistan as governor, and it's dangerous. And some of our service members do not return home. And we honor their lives, and we do not forget them. Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg in 1863, Gettysburg Address, talked about how important it is for all of us, the living, to make sure that those who die for our democracy, our government of the people, are not forgotten. They didn't die in vain. So I've attended military wakes and funerals across our state of our service members. We have many memorial services as well. And we're coming up now. Next month here is Memorial Day. We shouldn't take that for granted. And what unfortunately was happening a few years ago in Illinois, there was a hate group from Kansas, kind of a cult, to be honest, that was going to the funerals of our service members with vile signs and vile language. They would try to disrupt the funeral. as we laid our heroes to rest, American flag on the coffin. And it was really a grievous situation. We didn't want violence at a funeral, but we felt that there ought to be the right of the mourners to conduct their funeral ceremony with dignity and reverence. And I want to thank the representatives who are here because they voted for the law we call Let Them Rest in Peace. And what that does is it establishes a zone of privacy around all funerals in Illinois. A half hour before, during the funeral, and a half hour after, within 100 feet of the funeral, those who would seek to disrupt cannot penetrate that zone of privacy. And we carefully did this law to comply with the Constitution, but to also protect the rights of those who want to have their religious service without heckling or disruption. So we got that law passed. It was one of our, I think, great achievements.
And I understand that you attend every funeral.
I've been to the funerals and wakes of our soldiers, and there's no way in the English language or any language to relieve the pain of parents burying their sons and daughters they've known from the day they were born, who have given their lives for our country. I can tell you right here, in South Suburbs, there have been a number of funerals those are days, very sad days for our state, and it's important we help they're called Gold Star families. Gold Star families are families who have lost a son or daughter defending our democracy. And we have a day in late September, last Sunday of September, where Gold Star moms and dads are honored, and we take that seriously in Illinois.
Governor, I'm going to switch a little around now, and I want to talk about unemployment. We have 13.5 million people unemployed in the United States. Here in Illinois, it's 582,000. Here in the South Suburbs, we're going to just estimate a little over 10,000. We'd like to talk to you about what is on the radar for help. We know help is coming, but we'd like to know in what form and when can we start looking for it to present itself.
Well, it's very interesting that President Obama, Thursday night, when he came to our state, talked, this is the foremost issue for America, foremost issue for Illinois, economic growth and jobs. The best way to help the most people is a job. It's the best way to fight crime, best way to fight poverty, best way to keep families together. So when I became governor, I got sworn in on the 29th of January of 2009, a little more than 2 years ago. Our country was in a very deep recession. President Obama confronted the same thing I did at the national level. It's the worst recession we had since the Great Depression in the 1930s. So we have to dig out of that recession. What we did in Illinois is pass a law called the Job Recovery Act that involves public works. Public works are we use our public money to do things that will be good for today and tomorrow. What we're doing is repairing roads and fixing our bridges to make them safe. We'll have the biggest road program this year, as we did last year, in the history of Illinois. That puts people to work. Same way with improving our water systems. We believe in clean water. And our rail systems. This area of Illinois, where we live, and where we are now in the South Suburbs, add to it Will County, not far from here, we want to make the inland port of America. And we're doing it right now. Goods come to us by rail from both coasts. We also have air transportation. We want to build an airport in Peotone. And we want to make sure our highways are top-notch and safe. The reason is we have lots of people here with a good work ethic. They know how to work hard and do the job. They also understand the importance of teamwork. And that is part of our economic plan for the South Suburban area, to use our transportation to create a lot of new jobs for people who want to work hard. Now, having said that, I don't want to forget the importance of having air transportation. I worked with Congressman Jackson. We've been buying land not too far from here in Peotone to build an airport, a third airport. Not just Midway and O'Hare, we want to have Peotone. to serve for cargo for this inland port and freight, but also for passengers. And I would really like, my dream would be not only to have good highways and good rail and good airports, but high-speed rail that would go from downtown Chicago through University Park in the south suburbs, past Peotone, through Kankakee, all the way to Champaign. Maybe hook over and connect to Indianapolis, where you'd have a fast train, there's 20-mile-an-hour trains, good airport. We're going to build a lot of roads this way and repair a lot of roads, and definitely invest in schools. This school here, we cannot take for granted. And those are the kind of economic events that I think create jobs and employment.
South Suburbs has a very high tax on land, on homes.
Right.
The property value here in the South Suburbs has diminished almost to half. Although the property is now lower, the value, the taxes have increased. People want to know how they can stop the bleeding. What do you suggest?
Well, I'm not a fan of the property tax system. The first time I ran for office, I did a lot of petition drives in the 1970s. Somebody mentioned, I guess, in the introduction about the Citizen Utility Board we established by referendum. It's a citizen consumer group. It's still around today. It's Illinois' #1 consumer group. We did that by referendum. And after I did that, I was elected to the Cook County Board of Property Tax Appeals. And I heard firsthand from homeowners and business owners how unfair the property tax system was then and is now. And especially here in the south suburbs, the rates are very high. And too often we rely on the property tax system to fund the most important part of the 21st century, and that's education. That's what we're here for today. So we're using a 19th century property tax system that isn't based on ability to pay. It's most unpopular. By far, it's the most unpopular tax in Illinois. So I'm really for reforming that. I actually put on the ballot a few years ago, 2004, a referendum that was advisory that would have had a higher income tax on those blessed souls who are making more than $250,000 a year, and using that revenue to invest in education and lower property taxes. So I think that passed by 77%. And I really think we should keep working on that. And as governor, I bring that up all the time to our legislators. It would take a constitutional amendment. But I don't want a boy or girl's education anywhere in Illinois to depend on the property wealth in that district. Every kid should get a first-class education in our state. We want to out-educate the whole world right here in Illinois. We don't want anybody out-educating us. And it's so important. I was so impressed by those young students who are playing the musical instruments in the band. They're going to London next year. How about that? Going to the Olympics. And how about those culinary students? They were so impressive as well. And so we've got to have programs that take the talents of the young people who come through the doors of this school or many other schools and have adequate resources to educate them for what they can do with a career, with a fulfilled life. We don't want folks going through life unfulfilled, having talent that we never get to see because they never got a break on their schooling. So that's my biggest issue. You know, what we're doing right now, we passed school reform this week in the Senate. We still have to pass it in the House, but I'm quite confident we're going to get that done in terms of accountability and getting everything going right direction. I plan to, sign that when that passes. But we also have to invest in education. We can't pretend that you get a solid school system with pennies from heaven. We have to make sure as a society, I ran a campaign on this last year, it wasn't easy, but I believe in using the income tax to invest in education, decent health care, making sure we have good public services and health care and public safety. So, that's what it's all about. If we're going to have a strong economy, we have to understand those are the ingredients.
Governor, Governor, my final question is, when this chapter is closed and when you have moved on to another life beyond serving as governor, you will be known as the governor who abolished the death penalty. We know that. And that's pretty darn impressive. But I'd like to know your legacy. What's the legacy that you plan to leave behind?
Well, I think any person in this auditorium or anywhere in Illinois should aspire to excellence, do the best they can all the time. You know, I played basketball and other sports, and I played full court press in basketball, so I never rested, and I'm not planning to rest right now, and I'm not ready for my obituary in case any political opponents are here. I believe in being aggressive and progressive for, well, I got to live to 102.
Okay.
The reason is I won't pay off my kids' college education until then, you know. But I feel that it's important that you mentioned the death penalty, controversial subject to say the least. Our legislature, and I want to commend both Al Riley and Dave Miller who are here, passed a bill through the House and the Senate that came to my desk right about the beginning of January, and it called for abolishing the death penalty. And many people have different opinions on this, and I had a period of time, about maybe 50 days, that anyone could contact me by phone or letter, email. We had a lot of meetings, individual, personal meetings with people. Not with everybody, but we try to meet with as many different points of view as possible. And then I had to make this decision. Should I sign the bill that abolishes the death penalty forever in Illinois? Our state had 20 men convicted and sent to death row, ready to be executed. Turned out they were innocent. This is part of our history, rather recent history. And that bothered me a lot. I think it should bother anybody. And so in this period of time where I was reflecting and listening, I received calls from like our Archbishop Tutu from South Africa, who was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was on my cell phone, and he said he thought I should sign the legislation to abolish the death penalty. There were others who came and said the opposite. There were some families who had lost someone in their family to violent death that were opposed to the death penalty. Others of that same group were for the death penalty. So what do you do? The last day, I read the Bible. I was a great admirer of Cardinal Bernardine, who has passed on, but he was a great spiritual leader in our state. And so I read some of his writings, Gift of Peace, and I decided to sign the law. And I can tell you, it isn't always popular with people, but if you're in this job, or any job, you should always follow your conscience. If you do that, it'll never kick you in the shins down the road. So I follow my conscience, and I have no regrets.
Governor, thank you. Thank you.